Nishal Maheshwari, connect the dots for us. Adani stocks were down yesterday, 15 to 20% on an average. Today they are bouncing back. While they have not recovered whatever they lost yesterday, at least the falling has stalled today.
Hi Nikunj, thanks for having me. I think this is more of I'm saying a knee-jerk reaction basically where the market is sort of a short covering. I think all the Adani stocks have also recovered on the back of that. As far as fundamentals, I don't think so anything has changed for Adani Group stocks. I think as far as cash flows, businesses, all seems to be pretty good. The only thing remains to be obviously is the, I wouldn't say conviction, but the ruling which has come into the U.S. courts against Adani. I think that is a sign of caution. What kind of impact it will have basically, it is still in a very early stage because the trials have yet not started. So don't know basically which way it will go. So I think it is best to avoid these stocks for the moment and wait for a more clearer outcome before entering into these stocks.
Nishal, what we saw yesterday was that, all the banks with exposure to the Adani Group, they were the ones which are really getting hammered. But do you think the Adani Group per se has enough headroom with Indian banks for growth capital, and that was perhaps just a knee-jerk and more sentimental reaction?
I do agree with you, Aisha, on that, basically, because I do not think that Adani's, the whole business part of it basically is rock solid. So there is no issues about cash flows and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, the growth may be a bit hampered. Maybe they will not be able to raise the same kind of money which they were able to do it earlier in the international markets. But otherwise, I think the businesses are pretty solid on the ground here. So I think the banks was more of a knee-jerk reaction because they have some exposure to the Adani Group. Otherwise, bank doesn't seem to be having any issues per se. But yes, yesterday could have been a good time to actually accumulate all these banks.
Nishal, markets have a very ugly memory of how Adani Group of stocks reacted when this entire, Hindenburg fiasco broke out a couple of years ago. Then the first reaction was more like a knee-jerk reaction, like you said, how stocks fell yesterday. Do you think we cannot compare what happened 3 years ago because of the Hindenburg episode versus what is happening now? Those are two completely different, unrelated and not correlated things.
So I don't think so there's any correlation per se in between because what Hindenburg had said that the issue about the businesses and all, I don't think so. That is because after 3 years also, all those companies are, I'm saying, standing there, cash flows are very strong. Now this is something else altogether which has come out, and this I would say put more credence to this rather than the Hindenburg report because this is in a court of law and trials will happen, all that. But I'm still saying basically as far as businesses are concerned, as far as cash flows are concerned, companies concerned, I don't think so that is much of a worry. The issue about corporate governance and all that, I think that is one part basically which will get maybe which will have some worries. But as far as businesses are concerned, I don't think much has changed.
Entire concern, Nishal, which at least a cross-section of market participants which they had, which was that, okay, what will happen to their debt issue now that they have cancelled their fundraising in a dollar-denominated bond? Do you think we should ignore that? Because irrespective of whether they go ahead with a near-term bond raising or not, the cash flows and the debt levels are pretty manageable?
So I do not track each of these companies individually to really say that they are very comfortable. But what I've looked at historically, I think they are fairly cash flow. I'm saying cash flows are pretty solid basically for the Adani Group. Maybe what will get hampered is their future growth. But existing businesses, I think there is no issues per se. We have seen after the last Hindenburg report also 3 years, I was telling you earlier, because none of these companies have had any issues about the cash flow part. So do not see more problems there. What I would be worried about is if this was the issue basically regarding future growth. that might get delayed a bit.